Today is Tuesday, December 19th. What to know about a deadly storm that's been pummeling parts of the U.S. and is still lingering this morning. Also, a controversial new law in Texas that would give local officials more power over immigration arrests, even hundreds of miles from the border. Plus, the most definitive step yet to make the Catholic Church more welcoming to the LGBTQ community. The record-breaking fine Southwest Airlines will now have to pay, and the big Marvel movie star who was fired. We'll tell you why. Those stories and more news to know today, next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, the state of Texas is gearing up for another showdown with the federal government over immigration. This week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a new measure that lets local or state law enforcement officials arrest and deport anyone suspected of illegally entering Texas through Mexico. And that applies anywhere in Texas, not just border cities, for up to 2 years after the alleged offense. So a lot more officers may start asking for immigration documents. Abbott says he had no choice but to go this route, since he and other Texas Republicans argue the federal law is not being enforced as it should be. But there's already been a lot of pushback. Some Democrats in Congress called it the most extreme anti-immigrant state bill in the U.S. And immigrant rights groups have argued it violates the American Constitution and would encourage racial profiling. Some border area sheriffs have also said they're against it, worried it could cost too much money and overwhelm local jails and courts if even a fraction of those who cross the border are arrested. For now, the Texas law is set to take effect in March, but opponents have already said they plan to sue over it. So it's expected to wind its way through the courts, possibly even making its way to the U.S. Supreme Court next year. 10 weeks into the fighting in Gaza, and now the American Defense Secretary is talking about how Israel can shift to the next phase of war. The U.S. wants Israel to move away from high-intensity, large-scale warfare and focus on more precise, intelligence-driven missions. Secretary Lloyd Austin met with Israeli leaders to talk about the transition in detail, though he said no matter what, the U.S. would keep supporting Israel's right to defend itself, while also stepping up calls to protect Palestinian civilians. After the meeting with Austin, Israeli officials said they're open to transitioning to a new phase, even one that allows some Palestinians to return home. That said, the next phase will still need to have the same goals of finding and killing Hamas leaders, rescuing hostages, and destroying tunnels. Meanwhile, CIA Director Bill Burns met with Israeli and Qatari officials yesterday to talk about restarting hostage and prisoner exchanges. And that could make a big difference, since Burns played a key role in brokering the last deal that led to a pause in fighting and the release of more than 100 hostages and 240 Palestinian prisoners last month. Israeli officials say they expect this time around it will be tougher to agree to terms of a potential new deal. Hamas officials have said they'll relaunch hostage negotiations only after Israel stops its war in Gaza altogether, something Israel says will not happen until Hamas is destroyed. Well, this week has brought more violence to the Red Sea, and supply chains could be taking the hit. Several shipping giants announced they'll be suspending travel through the key trade route in response to an uptick of attacks by militants out of Yemen. Oil giant BP decided to pause all of its shipments through the Red Sea, too, as well as Norwegian energy firm Equinor and oil tanker group Frontline. Now, analysts say there's a lot of uncertainty for shippers, and not just because of the Red Sea. Another key route, the Panama Canal, is severely restricted because of low water levels. So this could mean longer times for goods to arrive or higher costs. Though really, the severity of the disruption depends on how long it all lasts, and the U.S. is hoping to limit the impacts. Just yesterday, the Pentagon said it was establishing a security operation to protect ships from attacks in the Red Sea. For this, the U.S. is getting support from the UK, Canada, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Bahrain, and more. Meteorologists are monitoring serious weather events in different corners of the world. For example, a volcano in southwest Iceland erupted, spewing lava and smoke across a large area. It was expected after weeks of intense earthquake activity. Like one town recently had more than 1,000 earthquakes in just 24 hours. So thousands of people had already been evacuated. Meanwhile, a 6.2 magnitude earthquake was reported in China last night. At least 118 people have been confirmed killed, and hundreds more have gotten hurt. Several aftershocks have also been reported. Back in the U.S., the Northeast is cleaning up from a powerful storm that did a lot of damage this week. It flooded roads, downed trees, knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of customers, and forced flight cancellations and school closures. Plus, high waters and falling trees killed at least 4 people. At this point, the storm has moved into Canada, but the threat of flash flooding is still around for some areas and could be through tomorrow. As the U.S. gears up for a big election year, the government is still looking back on the last one to make sure nothing was compromised. The Justice and Homeland Security departments put out a public report this week about the 2022 midterms. It says hackers linked to Russia and China did target some election systems, but it did not find any evidence of foreign governments actually compromising the vote. That's a good sign since the next big election cycle is coming up soon, starting January 15th with the Iowa caucuses. Speaking of which, if you want to get ready, it's a good idea to make sure you're registered to vote. Different states have different deadlines, and some are coming up quick. To check yours, just click the link we added to today's episode notes. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. I gave AG1 a try because as a busy parent and business owner, I'm always on the lookout for things that support my health and my energy levels and are convenient. So I was really intrigued by AG1. I reached out to them wanting to partner, and I've been really happy with my experience all around. I drink AG1 before I eat or drink anything else each morning, and it makes me feel ready to take on the day, especially around the holidays when I tend to eat those extra cookies and pie, and our schedules get all abnormal. It is so nice to know I have this go-to healthy habit every morning that I can come back to. AG1 replaces a lot of other supplements too, including a daily multivitamin, minerals, pre- and probiotics for gut health, adaptogens, and a greens blend, all in one scoop of powder mixed with water. So if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Now back to the news. It's considered a radical shift for the Catholic Church. Pope Francis formally approved letting priests bless same-sex couples. A new document explaining the Vatican policy change says, quote, people seeking God's love and mercy shouldn't be subject to an exhaustive moral analysis to receive it. But the move stops short of actually ending the church's ban on gay marriage. So the blessings cannot be part of regular church rituals or civil marriage ceremonies. Still, some LGBTQ advocates call it historic. And some priests say they're excited to start being able to bless gay members of their congregations. But other more traditionalist Catholics say they're disappointed, saying the decision comes in contradiction to Catholic teachings. Priests are generally expected to follow the guidelines set by the Vatican. But they don't have to, so there may still be circumstances when priests still decide not to offer these blessings. Southwest Airlines has reached a record settlement over last winter's flight cancellation nightmare. The Department of Transportation says the airline violated consumer protection laws and fined Southwest $140 million, about 30 times more than any previous fine against an airline. And that's on top of about $600 million in refunds Southwest already paid in connection to this meltdown. Remember, a combo of a winter storm plus outdated technology led to Southwest canceling nearly 17,000 flights, affecting more than 2 million passengers trying to get home from the holidays. Now the DOT hopes the record penalty puts all airlines on notice to do better. Southwest says it's grateful to reach a consumer-friendly settlement, adding it has learned from the event. But the airline also says it's already taken extraordinary measures to help customers, and the company disagreed that it violated laws. If you were hoping for a new Apple Watch this holiday season, you better hope Santa shops early. Apple made the surprise decision to pause all sales of its Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 here in the U.S. You'll only have until Thursday to get them online and until Christmas Eve to buy in store. This all has to do with a medical technology company, Masimo. The company says Apple copied its technology and used an aggressive legal strategy through the American patent system to avoid paying royalties. Apple actually accuses Masimo of being the copycat. Still, a recent federal trade ruling sided with Masimo. Apple has said it will appeal the ruling. One of Hollywood's fastest rising movie stars was convicted in a domestic violence trial this week and was promptly fired. We're talking about Jonathan Majors, who is known for his roles in Creed 3, as well as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and a few independent films. Marvel had planned to build several movies around his Quantumania character, Kang the Conqueror, starting with Avengers: The Kang Dynasty. But now the studio says it will be moving forward without Majors. This because a jury found him guilty of assault and harassment in connection to an incident with his ex-girlfriend. The jury did also determine the assault was reckless, that even though he was acting aggressively, he didn't mean to hurt her. Still, he could face several months in jail. Majors is scheduled to be sentenced in February. A very 80s-style dress just broke a record on the auction block. It's a black and blue evening dress that once belonged to Princess Diana. It's long-sleeved with shoulder pads featuring a black velvet bodice with blue metallic stars and a blue ballerina skirt featuring a sash and bow. And this week it sold for nearly $1.2 million. That was 11 times more than what it was expected to bring in, and it broke the record for the most expensive dress worn by Diana to be sold at an auction. But it's not the only piece of her clothing that has brought in big money this year. Diana's iconic black sheep sweater was expected to sell for $80,000 back in September. Instead, it brought in $1.1 million. And now fashion critics say these sales make it clear that even a quarter of a century after her death, Diana has remained a fashion icon. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Lumi. If you need a last-minute gift or stocking stuffer, I've got you covered. Because with Lumi, you're not just giving deodorant, you're giving confidence that they're smelling fresh all day. And get this, Lumi is on the top of the most wished-for list on Amazon for personal care products, so you know you're getting something people want. And for good reason. Lumi is a game-changing whole-body deodorant that is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. It's baking soda and paraben-free. It's pH balanced to use anywhere. It is my new favorite deodorant. It actually works. And it's clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Treat yourself or someone you know with Lumi's Starter Pack. Lumi's Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi Starter Pack with code NEWSWORTHY at LumiPodcast.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiPodcast.com. That's L-U-M-E, LumiPodcast.com, and use the code NEWSWORTHY. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. Today's trivia question is, what is the highest-grossing Christmas movie of all time? You can play along with us in our weekly roundup email that comes out each Friday. Simply sign up to get it at thenewsworthy.com/email or find the link in today's episode notes. As for last week's trivia question, what country has the youngest population? The answer is Niger. Almost half of the population of the West African country is younger than 15. Really, the whole continent of Africa is sort of a fountain of youth, as it's home to all of the top 10 countries with the largest shares of young people in the world. And it could stay that way for a while, since Africa also has some of the highest birth rates and a relatively low life expectancy. On the opposite side of the scale, the world's oldest country is Japan, where 28% of the population is older than 65. But that one is an anomaly, as the rest of the oldest countries in the top 10 are all in Europe. All right, thank you so much for listening and for sharing the show. We'll be back with another news roundup for you tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.